well, we can start now. This Taylor Swift talk should definitely be left in.
Most def.
Wait, what is our question? Is it like what is art? Is that the question?
Sure.
Okay, sure.
That's probably what I'm gonna start with here.
Okay, it's all you do.
Okay. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 8.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Wow, we're moving. Dude.
I know. We are far in. This episode is gonna be all about art.
We've officially been doing this for 2 months then.
Well, 8 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, that's 2 months, dude. Wow.
Oh, we haven't skipped a week.
Yeah, we haven't. No.
Wow. Good job.
You too.
So this episode is all about art. This was my topic. I picked it. This was my week to pick the topic.
Mm-hmm.
Very excited because if you know from my other channel, I like movies a lot. So a lot of these questions I've been asking myself for a long time. But the main question is, and the first question that we have to answer is, what is art? Like, is it even definable? No, it's not. But let's try it. Let's try to.
Oh, I mean, I found a definition on Google.
Okay, what is it?
And I think Google defined it pretty well.
By the way, you can look links in the description to our Facebook, or if you want to download this.
You can't find it anywhere because we don't do that. You can just go to like YouTubeMP3.org or whatever it is. And
I think I'll put a link to that, a website or two that
you say you're gonna do that and then you're not. People are gonna look there and it's not gonna be there.
I'll put it there.
Okay.
Okay.
Google's definition of art: the expression or application of human creative skill and imagination. I think that's a pretty good definition, actually.
That's actually pretty solid, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you think about that, the implications of that's really wide.
Yep.
Like, extremely wide definitions. Read that off again.
The expression or application of human creative skill and imagination.
Goodness. So if you think of... So, man, if you want to define it that broadly...
I mean, it's a very broad thing, right? Like, art is just everywhere, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about, like, to a certain degree, just, like, functional things have a certain amount of, like, imagination and skill drawn into them. Like...
Yeah, exactly.
Like a water bottle or something, you know?
Yeah, like an engineer just designing a building or something has to be creative with how he's like making it and stuff. He doesn't have to make it look good, but he's got to think up how like the certain like structure points and stuff work. And
I mean, at a certain point, you do have to like you have to imagine how it's going to look.
Right.
And then at that point, what was the first part of it again? Using your technical skill?
The expression or application of human creative skill and imagination.
Yeah, so you have to create, even if it's not for the sole purpose of any sort of visual art. Like, even if you're making a building or a water bottle.
Right.
Or whatever, just something like a pencil. You're going to have to use your creative skills to make that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, everything is art?
Everything is basically art.
Anything that is made, or man-made.
Right, but that's getting like really broad, and we probably won't be talking about that. It's really, I mean, if like you can find art everywhere, and it's just like, duh, of course everything's art. Like we can look at this desk right here, or rather,
you can't see it.
Yeah, you guys can't see it, but
we're sitting on chairs right now.
There's a biology book right there, and it's like, okay, someone had to decide that biology book is like orange on the outside and like black there, and
I would show it to you, but the camera is sitting.
The camera is actually sitting
on it. Yeah. So that's the setup we have in here.
Yeah.
But like the chair or this windowsill, to a certain degree, you're thinking about the function of it, but a certain amount of the function comes from the aesthetic look of it.
That windowsill is a perfect example because it's like it's supposed to look nice, right? You guys can see it. Yeah, it's supposed to look nice, but it also has the functionality of holding up all these superheroes and stuff, right? So that's interesting.
Yeah. So, but for the purposes of our discussion, we're not going to go that broad. Talk about everything. But I think for the purpose of this discussion, we should define what we're going to talk about as like strictly art for the sake of art.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like, what is it, in school, like, people refer to it as, like, the creative arts, you know? But it's like, art is kind of always, like, creative, I guess, right? But
Or not art is a lot of times creative, too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like buildings.
Exactly. But buildings are art. There's a reason people take, like, pictures of, like, Houston or whatever.
That's true.
Oh, we just revealed their location. But there's a reason...
Oh, I say that on the other channel.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I used to say that on the podcast, actually, the movie podcast.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, yeah, which I used to watch all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, so obviously the art we're talking about is just like a painting or music or movies or something like that.
Yeah, something that doesn't have the function.
Jeez.
There's a storm brewing outside of these Houston. So we're going to be talking about specifically art for the sake of the art itself. So It doesn't have any other function other than art.
So should we just jump right into it?
Yeah, man. What do you got?
The first thing I have is the value of art.
Right. So does it like... Yeah, that's a good question. Like, does it have any inherent value?
Right. What determines the value of pieces, whether it be movies or music or paintings or whatever? Is it determined by, like, the skill needed to produce it? Is it determined by its popularity and, like, how many people enjoy it?
Or its utility, like if it has any utility?
Right, exactly.
Which most art doesn't actually have any utility other than the fact of maybe human enjoyment.
Right.
Which I guess is a utility, technically.
Yeah, I guess.
Human enjoyment is kind of a use.
Yeah.
I guess, so if you want to define utility
but isn't that just like the same as like people, like how many people like it?
That's a great point. That's a great point. Because, yeah, if you're talking about if the only inherent value that art has is human enjoyment, then, yeah, by those terms, the more people that enjoy it, the more, the higher quality. The
more utility it has.
The more utility it has, therefore...
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, but most people don't accept that notion.
Right.
Because it's, like, especially...
That's why we have hipsters.
Yeah, it's essentially like hipster mentality, like, oh, this is really obscure, but it's way better than what everyone's, like the top, top 40 music or the big blockbuster movies.
But that also brings up the next one is creativity. Like, some people consider something to be more creative if it's very different from everything else. It's more original.
Right, which is so unquantifiable. Individually you can rate your art by those standards.
Right.
But you can't you don't have any basis to tell anybody else that
by which standards are you talking about?
I'm saying, like, if
you're all of them, by the utility
by the
creativity.
The creativity,
right?
Like how individual it is, or how unique it is based compared to everything that's come before it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So if you're just judging it by that, well, that's basically a matter of opinion. It's subjectivity. So you don't have any basis to tell anybody else that, hey, this is a higher quality.
You don't have the right to tell anyone else that it's a higher quality, but you can say, like, look, no one's ever done anything like this before.
Yeah, but you don't have any definitive, like, you don't have a definitive platform to say that this is higher quality because of this. Right. That's just a standard that you have for yourself.
But it's just we have all of those we have, like, records of all of those in the sense that, like, okay,
like the predecessors.
we can look at how popular this is. We can look how original this is. We can look at the utility of how many people enjoyed it, which is like the same thing as the other one.
Popularity.
We can look at the selling point of this.
Or the process, like if they should take that into account.
Yeah, we
like
can.
if it was really hard to make.
Exactly, yeah.
That's another thing that people
we can look at
often...
all of those, and I think all of those are like supposed to help determine the value of art. Right?
Yeah, but see, like everybody's weighing all those, like they prioritize those differently.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And most people do not accept the notion that the more popular it is, the better it is somehow. It's almost the opposite, or like that any correlation.
Right.
Is not
something gets
validation.
Popular because it's good, not because like well.
No, not necessarily.
Well, sort of, because okay, like
I mean that's
let's
the hipster argument.
Let's talk about pop music, right? Like,
yeah, let's talk about music. Yeah.
Okay,
so you got like top 40 music.
Right. Like Taylor Swift, like we were just talking about.
Yeah, like Taylor Swift or whatever, Justin Bieber, whatever.
Bieber doesn't make music anymore.
What are you talking about?
He's just like doing bad stuff, right? Has he released an album in like years?
I don't know. He was in a like Calvin Klein commercial or something.
Yeah, and it was stupid. Anyways, Taylor Swift or any other singers, Ariana Grande or.
Yeah, I mean those are really popular, and I think most people agree that like it's not like low quality.
Right.
But the hipster mentality would tell you that like. Or like, here's a perfect example. Iggy Azalea. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people that think her music is just garbage.
Right. I've literally never heard it, so I don't have a reference point here, but...
Okay, it's pretty much garbage. I mean, to me...
Okay.
Like, it's sort of like, there is like this, like, low-quality stuff that is popular. Or like, if you want to, like, a movie example would be like... And I'm just going off generalities here, but a lot of people think that Transformers movies are like total garbage, but they're massively successful.
Right.
Like Transformers 4, which came out in 2014, made... It was the only movie of last year to make over $1 billion.
Jeez.
Yeah. Hunger Games will make $1 billion, but it just hasn't been out as long.
Okay.
But even still, like, and like critics and a lot of fans say that movie is like total garbage, but it gets up there. So there is kind of a correlation, but the popularity doesn't always directly translate into perceived quality. And that's sort of the hipster mentality, like, anything that's popular is garbage, which is not necessarily true.
But I think with the Transformers, for example, is there was a lot of like build-up there. Like, okay, with the first Transformers, the first one had some creativity to it because we never really had a live-action Transformers movie that's like really good effects and stuff.
That's the only one that I like.
Yeah, that's the only one most people like. That movie's actually pretty decent with the stupid Linkin Park soundtrack. But so it's got the originality going for it, and then it's also got.
It's got creativity.
It's got the pre-success. Like Transformers had, Transformers is a brand name. It's been around for a long time and stuff, and that's why people watch the movies. Is because like, I grew up watching the cartoons or whatever, So it's got a lot behind it, and that's probably why it's popular, and it doesn't necessarily judge its quality, right?
Oh, you're saying that like, if it was a lower quality, the fact that it's a recognizable name sort of boosts its popularity?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. That's fair.
Same thing with all of, like, Lord of the Rings or something. It's like, everyone knows Lord of the Rings. Like, it's pretty widely accepted that those movies are good, but with The Hobbit has very split sides. Some people think the Hobbit movies were great, and some people think they were freaking awful.
Yeah, I've heard them compared to the Star Wars prequels, but I think they're better than those. But...
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
But... because it's a brand name and everyone's like, I saw the Lord of the Rings trilogy and stuff, it's like, yeah, everyone's gonna go see all the Hobbit movies, like, even if they're just terrible. Yeah. Which, I mean, I felt like the first Hobbit movie was awful, and I still watched the other two, obviously, so...
Yeah, well, the second one was less popular than the first one.
Really?
And then the third one was more popular than... The third one was more popular than the first one. In terms of just box office.
So was the third the most popular?
Not yet, but I mean it's on track because like it's still in theaters. I think.
That's weird. Guys, watch the second one. The second one's my favorite.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Which one's your favorite?
Probably the third one.
Oh, okay. Well,
I mean, it's hard to compare them to like Lord of the Rings is on a whole nother level.
yeah, it is.
Like that original trilogy.
But
It
anyways,
doesn't compare to that.
the point
but it's
is,
decent.
yeah, these movies and stuff don't necessarily have to be quality because they have a brand name. Now back to the music, Iggy Azalea. I know nothing of that. Like where did that popularity come from?
I honestly have no idea. I think, like, there's this idea that, like...
Is her music catchy?
I mean, yeah, to a certain degree, I guess.
Well, then there you go, right?
I mean, it's like... I don't know. I just sort of think of it as, like, bottom of the barrel, like... it's just, like... clubs and booties and all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like, there's definitely not a lot of creativity in there, but I guess it is kind of catchy.
Mm-hmm.
So, and people latch on to that.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's the thing. The reason, like, pop music is, first of all, it's called pop because it literally means popular music, right? But it's, the music is popular because it's catchy. Like, the human brain, like, whether you like it or not, the human brain likes pop music. The human brain likes security and it likes patterns.
Right.
So when it hears music that it can, like, it's like, oh man, here comes that part that I know, the chorus, and it's like, it's coming up, and then when it comes, it's so satisfying to the brain. That's why catchiness is like, that's why all pop music is catchy.
There's like a psychological science to why pop music is popular.
Like, even if you don't like Justin Bieber, your brain likes Justin Bieber. And you're gonna have to deal with that.
To a certain degree.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, Baby can be stuck in your head all day.
Yeah, I think that's like 1, 5, 6, 4 chords.
It might be, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it is.
I've only heard the song a couple times.
But anyway, what we're saying is, like, the popularity isn't necessarily a like a good test as to the quality. Like, you can't always tie popularity to the quality of it because some of it is going to be, extremely derivative, but it fits into the mold, and it becomes popular.
But there's a weird measuring there where it's like, okay, well, Jacob, you just told us that the brain likes patterns and it likes catchy music and stuff, so therefore we have something to judge this music by. It's what our brains like, so therefore we can judge this music and be like, well, my brain likes it, my brain thinks it's catchy and stuff, and so I like it, right? Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah.
And so therefore then, like, if we have our brain to use as a reference point, then we can't necessarily say that pop music or certain pop music is bad. Like, if it's popular, then we're not using the popularity necessarily, but the popularity, like, mixed with the brain fact. Like, the fact that all these people's brains are also telling them that this music is good, like, through the repetition and stuff that they like.
Right. What are you saying?
I'm saying that if the brain acts as almost like an objective filter.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, but
with the other aspects, we don't necessarily have an objective filter.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. But, I mean, to that point, there are other factors other than whether or not people are going to think it's catchy. Like, like, especially with music, like distribution and marketing and stuff. That plays a big part into it,
That's true.
Like, you got to have, like, a singer that's, like, attractive.
And, well, no.
It
does help, though.
They have a certain, like, brand surrounding. It's not just the music, it's the person, their persona, so their music videos, how they're marketed as well. Like, it's not solely just one factor. It's like a lot of factors affecting the popularity. Also, like, what studio you're signed up with and, like, how they're going to market your music.
I think it's, like,
widely they can market it.
I think the marketing fact is more of just, like, can we get it out there? Because not anyone, but, like, me and you could sit down and write a catchy pop tune, but we don't have any marketing, so we can't make it popular, and so that means it's not necessarily as good as the other ones, right?
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, if enough people hear your music, it could seem like a lot of people are liking it, even though it might be a low percentage of the people that hear it.
Right.
But if you can get enough people to hear it,
right,
then that can usher it
And we're kind of making the hipster argument here, like, oh, you should listen to my indie rock or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, exactly.
really, no, it's like...
Well, see, that's the same thing. Yeah, somebody, some band in their garage might be making really catchy music.
Mm-hmm. Nirvana.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, that's how Nirvana got to fame. Like, yeah, they're playing crappy guitar tones and stuff, but their music's catchy, it gets stuck in your head, right? So...
Right. Well, they got discovered, but you might have another band that is making, catchy music.
Right.
They're they haven't been found or whatever.
Right.
They might not ever. But their music is just as catchy as anything else out there.
And so it could theoretically be just as good, exactly.
Yeah, so it's like, that's when you got to factor in the other things that make music popular, like marketing and distribution and stuff like that.
Right, so the popularity is not at all a good reference point, right?
Not at all, but I mean, I think popularity tells us something about.
Yeah, you're right.
It
probably tells us a little bit, because I mean, sometimes you go like, I don't know if you've ever been searching through like really obscure bands that have like 200 fans or something.
I've never.
Okay, well, sometimes you do, like on the internet, and you find them and you listen to them and you're like, wow, this is really bad. And it's just like, I mean, you're in an area where you're gonna experience bad bands. Sometimes you'll find that like golden band that should be more popular, but most of the time,
you think like, oh, why are they not more popular?
Yeah. But most of the time, it doesn't work out. So popularity is like a little bit of a reference point, but it does not define the value like determinately. Right?
Yeah, it can't be the sole factor that you look at when you're trying to determine quality.
What about the skill needed to create the art?
That's a great question. So, perfect example. This year, there's a movie. It was on a lot of critics' top 10 lists.
Birdman.
It was a lot. No.
Okay.
It was a lot. It was several critics' #1 movie of 2014. It's nominated for Best Picture. It's got a great chance of winning Best Picture.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a movie called Boyhood.
Never even heard of it.
Yeah, a lot of people have it. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
it didn't do like huge at the box office or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But this movie, they started filming it in 2004.
Holy.
No. Sorry, 2002.
What?
Yeah, and it's basically a coming of age story about this little kid. But what kind of the shtick is that they filmed the same kid.
Yeah.
They used the same kid. They filmed him over the course of 12 years.
Right.
But it's not a documentary. It's totally fictional. It's scripted. But they use the same actors, the kid included. But he's like 7 or 8 when they started it in like 2002, and they follow him up till he's like 18 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they film for like 2 weeks every year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I'm sure the movie's great, but, like, see, it's hard to separate the process.
Well, see, it's there's also some originality there. Like, the fact that they did do that means they're getting some attention for being original. It's not necessarily just the skill
It's not even
needed.
the most original thing. It's been done before. There's a British TV series called 7 Up.
Really?
Where it's a documentary
Mm-hmm.
where they interview families and kids every 7 years. They've been doing this for like 40 years. This started like in the 80s.
Right.
It's still going on. Every 7 years they release like.
What does an episode consist of?
Oh, they go interview all the kids that they started with, see what they're doing, where they're at.
And how did they start? Like,
they just contacted parents.
What was the first episode, or rather the first 7 years of episodes? Is my question.
Oh yeah, so they I believe the first one they did an interview. They interviewed all the kids. Got it they just look at their grades, their hobbies, their interests, what they were into and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And then 7 years later, they re-interviewed them, and then those two collections of footage were put out as the first one.
Oh.
And then they
okay.
redo that every year, and they just follow up with these kids
right.
Oh, where are they at now? Oh, now they're graduated. They'll maybe go to their graduation or something.
Okay.
Get them graduating, getting their job, whatever they're doing. So it's been done before. Also, this is a fictional movie. You could sort of make the same case for the Harry Potter series, which is essentially they have 3 kids that they film in a fictional script
that's interesting.
over the course of I don't know, like I don't even remember when the first or last Harry Potter movie came out, but that was over like
First one
at
came
least
out
10
what,
years.
like 2002 or something?
Probably so.
Something like that.
That's at least 10 years, right? When did the last one come out? 2010
I have no
or
idea.
11?
I have no
Yeah, I don't
idea.
remember either, but either way,
Yeah,
all I'm
like
saying-
the actors were always referencing how they were saying they like grew up together and they're like brothers and sisters and yeah.
yeah, so
yeah.
it's not totally original. It's been done at least twice.
Okay.
But, technically it's hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, it's not even that hard to do, actually. They filmed for 2 weeks every year for 12 years.
An example
It's
in
just-
like movies would be like what was that movie?
My point was that movie is like on a lot of people's. It's like their number one movie of the year.
Right.
And it goes. You have to question whether the process is affecting the perceived quality of the movie. You see what I'm saying?
Sometimes it would be though with movies in the sense that like not necessarily that movie, but like camera shots and stuff. Like if you have like a cameraman like on skates or something, like following a car or some kind of weird
some
shots
sort of new thing.
Yeah.
Or like Avatar, like that was kind of a new technology. They sort of took motion capture to like the next level.
Yeah, and
The
it got
Avatar
really
movies.
popular because that people were like, "Oh, it looks so good." Right?
Yeah, and like they were like 3D, and then after that, every movie is coming out in 3D.
Yeah.
To this day, we're still living with that.
Yeah.
The consequences of that.
The consequences.
Even though 3D was already. You could already do 3D before that,
Mm-hmm.
but that movie like really popularized it.
Yeah. I remember there was like a couple first 3D movies, like one of them was like Beowulf or something, I think. And
one of the Spy Kids movies
oh
was in 3D.
And there was some cheesy line of like, "Put your 3D glasses on now" or something.
Yeah, because I think it was written into the script too about the kids were going into a virtual reality or something, something like that.
I don't know. I never saw it. But anyways, we're getting way too off onto movies. This guy really likes movies.
No, what we're talking about is whether or not the process should affect the perceived quality. I would say, man, it's so hard to separate. It's so hard to separate the process from the end result. But I would say you shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you should just judge the end result. The end, not the means.
But the means will sometimes make you enjoy something, right?
Right. So if the process translates into something that you can see,
Mm-hmm.
then that's when it adds to the quality.
Okay, sure.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Like with Boyhood, they were actually going to call that movie 12 Years,
Mm-hmm.
but the year before that, a movie came out called 12 Years a Slave,
Oh yeah.
which was about slavery. So they're like, let's go ahead and not use the word 12 in years. But anyway, like they could have made that same movie
Mm-hmm.
in like a year
Mm-hmm.
and gotten like 3 actors, like a kid actor, a tween actor.
It wouldn't
and
have
a teen
been
actor.
nearly as entertaining then, though, right? Because
Who's
like
to s-
every
who's to
movie
say?
does that.
Who's to say?
Well, I mean, okay, the movie.
Because it's essentially a coming of age movie. Like there's not a strong narrative. It's just like
That's what I was
day-to-day.
asking. Is there like a good plot or anything?
No, it's not. It's not a unique plot at all.
Okay,
It's
so
literally just following him.
They were using that as a gimmick, though. Then, right? Because if they just used separate actors, then it would be a boring movie. It would be a movie about nothing, right?
I think it would. Well, yeah. I mean, in hindsight, it would certainly seem that way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really hard to separate out the. I mean, people say the movie is well directed and well acted and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, would it be touted as highly as it is if they had maybe just used 3 actors and filmed it over the course of 6 months or whatever?
Right.
Because there isn't a strong narrative. It's about a boy and his father. His parents get divorced, and it's kind of him dealing with that and him dealing with like teen romance.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he's older, deciding what he wants to do with his life and stuff like that. So it's nothing we haven't seen in cinema like hundreds of times.
Right.
Again, like sort of like Harry Potter, sort of like the personal problems that he deals with.
I feel like it could be a little bit like they're saying the directing was good and everything. It might be a little bit biased if they really like the fact that they had a kid like growing up and they're like, oh yeah, I really like that, and then like after the fact they're like, well, was the directing very good? It's like, yeah, I really liked the movie, so the directing was really good, obviously, and
that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's hard. You can't really dissect, like separate everything out. You know what I mean? You just have to take the movie as a whole experience. Because you go into it already knowing that it is the same kid growing up. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Or most people would.
Yeah, most people.
Some people would go to the theater or whatever and just be like, "What is going on?" Like that kid they got an actor that looks like exactly the same as that kid.
Yeah, or like thinking like, man, this older actor is not as good as the kid actor. Because a lot of people say like whenever he's old, like he's not as good.
Really?
As he's when he's kid. It happens because like
that makes sense.
That happens with kid actors a lot.
Yeah.
Like they're really believable as a kid actor, but then when they're grown.
Because kids just like say and act stupid anyways, so yeah.
Yeah, because when they're a kid, they're not really acting that much.
Yeah, they're just being a kid.
They've got to already have whatever qualities they need for those movies, and then when they're grown, it's kind of different. But yeah, so that's a perfect example of what like. So I would say that the process shouldn't affect it, but unless it's visible on screen, if it's affecting the end result.
That's fair.
I sort of think of them as like have you know what a Rube Goldberg machine is?
Yeah. Do they though? It's
look it up, guys. There's a bunch of them on YouTube.
No, it's that OK Go did a video of it, right? Or there was a video to that song, anyways.
I don't remember. It's basically like a massive chain reaction.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you see like, okay, someone
usually
hits a domino and it goes and it like hits a beach ball and like bounces and hits something else and there's a hammer that's playing.
And like a ball will roll into a cup and then the cup will like weigh down something.
Isn't the like scientific definition like a machine used to create a very simple task in an elaborate way or something like that?
Well, that's a good definition. That's what they all do.
Yeah.
Like at the end, like at the very end, it'll like turn on a light bulb.
Yeah.
Or like zip up a zipper or just do something like really simple.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, see, that's very technically hard. Mm-hmm. But what is it doing? It's not.
It's entertaining to us because it's. Is it entertaining to us because it's skill intensive though?
Yeah, it is.
So then.
But that's the only reason.
People are entertained by those. There's a reason.
Oh yeah, I've watched a bunch of those on YouTube.
Yeah, so those are
Rube Goldberg.
Those are good art then, right? I mean, they seem to have high value.
I don't know. I mean, you've got the enjoyment factor there. Mm-hmm. Because you're like, wow, this is like really intricate and takes a long time to set up, Mm-hmm. But the end result is just something really simple. Mm-hmm. So it's. But see, that's different. But that's different between like music or movies or like a painting or something, because you actually see those processes.
Right.
Whereas if you do some sort of really complex shot for a movie or something, you don't necessarily see that.
I think it's
You know what I'm saying?
I think it's different for every art form though. You're saying it's not the same for music or whatever. But yeah, it totally is. Like, like I like to listen to like really fast technical metal and stuff. And it's like, yeah, that's part of it. Like, you can't see it, but it's like, yeah, you can hear it. And if you go to a concert, yeah, you can see them doing like all their like 8-string craziness and stuff. And that's part of it. It's like part of the reason you enjoy it is because of how technical it is, right?
Yeah, but you're actually experiencing those technicalities.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's the same as like with the Rube Goldberg machine. It's
right, you're experiencing those.
Yeah.
Because that's sort of the point of it.
Yeah.
But you don't. That's not always necessarily the case. Mm-hmm. Like something really hard to get on film might just come up as like something. It might look really simple.
Right.
Or in the case of Boyhood, you might do something really technical and intensive, like work intensive, but you end up with the movie that we've seen a dozen times.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So if you're just working to make something that you've already done.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Does that still count as quality? Or like to your point, like music. Like let's say you hear a really technical metal song, right?
Right.
Okay, and you're experiencing it. It's great, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now for you to recreate that song exactly,
Mm-hmm.
that would be very hard for you to do, right?
Very difficult, yeah.
Very difficult for you if you were going to actually play it and everything. That would take a lot of effort on your part.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you would have just made this song that somebody else already made.
Right. So it's not.
So do we praise? Do we praise you? Like, whoa, you recreated this song and it's great.
So what you're saying is, like, because with Boyhood, like, they put a lot of skill into it and stuff, but at the end of the day, their movie's very similar to someone else's, so it's not really a big deal. That's what you're saying, like, with the music comparison?
I'm saying that's a very provoking thought. Yes.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. But I think it's different for every art form.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's like there's subtle differences that like certain technical skill is like important in some forms of art and not necessarily others.
Or even like take painting for example. Throughout the 1800s and early 1900s, people would go to museums. Artists would go to museums and they would recreate like these like masterpieces, you know, like Da Vinci and stuff like that. But they would take great care to like recreate it exactly, like with like brush strokes and mixing colors like exactly. And they would even take old canvas from the time period that the art was made.
Right.
Like maybe of a very common painting, but they would take the canvas and strip it of all the paint, and paint, and then copy like a famous painting onto that canvas. See what I'm saying?
Right.
Because that's more accurate to get a canvas that's as old as the canvas that the classical painting was painted on. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's very labor intensive. It's very hard to do. And they would take great detail to even like get the brush strokes the same. You know what I mean? That's very hard. But at the end of the day, they've made this painting that already existed.
Okay.
So a similar situation there.
Okay, I think we can move on from there. I think we made our point on that part.
Basically, Boyhood sucks. That's my point. No, I'm just kidding. I haven't seen it.
Okay, so then let's talk about like monetary value now. Like we're still talking about value, but the monetary value. Should people get paid when it comes to art? Should people get paid by how many hours they work on it?
Ooh, well, that's the thing. They don't.
No, they don't.
That's a fact that we know.
Yeah.
Huh. I mean, should they?
But some of them, like, you're saying they don't in the sense that, like, they don't get paid enough for the hours that they work on it, right?
Well, that's kind of, like, subjective. Exactly.
Like, because some of them get overpaid, for sure. Because they're a famous name or something.
Yeah.
Like, if you're
this
famous...
is a really gray area we're getting into.
Well, it's also because, like, it's also the skill required when it comes to monetary value. It's like, okay, if I have this much, if I have this much skill and I work this many hours, I can charge you this much, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so, but
it works that way in a lot of times, yeah.
Yeah, and so if you get like a famous painter or something, obviously they're going to charge more because they're famous. But if they're famous, they probably already have a lot of skill, right? So it's reasonable for them to charge more.
If they're famous, they probably
actually
have
no,
more
they
skill,
don't. We just discussed that because famous things don't necessarily
require more skill.
Yeah,
like for something to be popular.
Yeah, it's just like completely random, almost. Especially
almost,
with
yeah. Well, see, so then you got like different contexts that art is being made too. So you got like obviously if you've got like a straight up commission by someone, like let's say you are a musician. Somebody's like, I want a jingle. Well, then you got some bargaining power there. It's like, well, you want a 30-second jingle. That's going to take me 2 weeks, 8 hours. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just giving it. I don't know how long it would take.
I mean,
this is going to be $30,000.
Assuming you have all the programs and all the instruments and everything, it wouldn't take 2 weeks for a 30-second jingle for sure. For a little jingle,
like for like a big corporation. And
most jingles are like 145 anyways, right?
Yeah, but maybe it's like a big corporation and they want like a really good catchy rhyme,
Right, if it's a big corporation, you can charge more because they're going to be using it more and stuff, right?
Well, yeah, they want it very specific. Like they want like certain catchphrase in there or something, and you're gonna pay like 5 different writers to come up with a jingle, and then you're gonna get like 5 different ones, and then like see which ones are good, and then maybe combine or mix and match some of them, and then you're gonna focus group them and see how they go. I'm just saying, so something like that. Or let's just say you're a painter, and I come to you and say, I want a painting of myself. I want a self-portrait. And you can tell me, oh, okay, it's going to take me about 8 hours. I want $30 an hour or something, or $40 an hour.
Right.
Whatever. But then you've got art that is like self-initiated. Like, a couple guys in a garage, that are recording an album or something.
Right.
So, like, should those guys get paid for their efforts in the same way?
I think they should get probably paid less, right? And I think they do.
Well, yeah, obviously. But why?
Because it's not like they're not, they have creative freedom. They're not like, okay, like, in the sense that you're talking about someone being commissioned to do a painting, right? Well, when bands are on record labels, sometimes the record label will be like, all right, this album's got to sound a lot like the last one that was really successful or something. And they're restricting them, whereas the band might not want to do that. See, like with a commission, you're really restricting someone. But with the other sense, it's like, okay, you have your creative freedom here, so you're actually just having fun. You're not actually working. So you definitely get paid less for it in that sense, right?
Well, you're still working.
Yeah, but I mean, you're enjoying it probably more than you would. But I see what you're saying.
So, more restrictions equals
I hope they can hear you chewing, dude. I hope that they can. That'd be great.
I'm making a great point here. I'm trying to just suck it all down before.
I know, I can hear it.
But you make a great point. That's a good point. Yeah, more restrictions equals harder to make. Equals more money, more...
Yeah, more skill required, probably.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Whereas if you're just self-initiated, you have the creative freedom to make whatever you want. Therefore, it should be easier. Even though, well, by that logic, that's not true necessarily.
Why?
Like, just because you have more freedom to create what you want doesn't necessarily make it any easier to make.
Yeah, that's true.
That. So it still could require the same or more skill, even if you don't have any restrictions.
I think we nailed the value thing down. We're at like 45 minutes and we've talked about like a fourth of what we need to talk about. So, okay. The bottom line on value is that most people will say that value is defined by how much someone is willing to pay for it. And I think that's just like perfect answer, right? Because like a lot...
you think that's the perfect answer?
Yeah, because like a lot of painters and stuff will like stick out their art and it's like, okay, no one's buying it. It's like, well, it's probably not worth that much,
Yeah, you think that's the best system?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the only system that really works.
It's the only system that's worked so far, right? Like, but not like your value. We're talking strictly monetary value, not actual value. Okay, can art be judged in an objective manner?
Not really.
Not at all?
I mean, oh man, the only objective, there's only a few objective measures, and they're not really quality measures, but you can, how much how much are people willing to pay for it? That's pretty much it. How much it actually costs to make in terms of resources. Those are pretty much the only two things that you can like objectively say. Like you can say like this painting costs this much in colors, this much for the canvas, this many man hours.
Right.
And then, you know what I'm saying? Or like,
but
this movie cost $100 million to make, and it made $600 million worldwide.
Okay, and so with the other things we're talking about, like the originality / creativity, the skill behind it and stuff, we have all that to try to judge it, but all of that is kind of subjective except for like popularity or something. But here's a question for you.
Okay.
Are you ready for this?
So ready.
If nobody on the whole planet likes a piece of art except for the artist himself, is that piece considered bad, objectively?
No.
Okay, what if nobody on the whole planet liked it, including the artist didn't like it? Is that piece considered bad, objectively?
That's a great question. But I would still have to say no.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, which is weird.
Yeah.
Because it's like, man, that's such a weird concept because all the time we can be like, oh, I don't like that, I think it's bad, and it's just like, well, I'm just saying my opinion, man. Like, it's not a big deal, I'm just saying my opinion. But
Yeah.
if nobody likes something, it's like, at that point, is it an opinion? Like, is it an opinion if, like...
That it's bad?
Yeah, if nobody likes it. Like, if everyone 100% agrees on one idea, at that point, is it basically just a fact? It's not, though.
It's a fact that nobody likes it.
Yeah, exactly. It's not. We have no way to like prove that this is like we can prove that nobody likes it. We have no way to factually prove that it's bad.
Right, because we don't have any objective measures.
Exactly. That's why I was asking the question. Because even though nobody could like it, or even if everybody liked it, is it objectively good? And it's like, no, it's still not.
Exactly. Well, but that's weird because yeah, because so much of it is based on other people's opinion of it, like how we perceive the quality is like a lot of times based on
right
other people's perception of it as well that are affecting ours.
Mm-hmm.
But if everyone is in agreement, well, no, you still can't say that it's objectively bad. No, yeah, you can't.
Which is kind of funny because sometimes you get like elitists in art who are like, oh, this music's freaking terrible. And it's like, okay, you're just stating your opinion, but then they're like, no, that music is just like objectively bad. Like there are people out there who have said that probably.
Oh,
like,
I'm sure.
Yeah. And
which is like, an impossible statement to make.
Yeah, apparently it is, I think. So that's still, we've like nailed that part now.
Yeah, so
okay.
The point is, any statements regarding the quality of art are completely opinions. 100% opinions.
Yes, there's no objective way to measure art. It is 100% subjective.
I wish there was.
Yeah, that'd be
It would make ranking stuff a lot easier.
Then people couldn't really have opinions at that point. It's like, oh, this one's objectively better, and it's like, well, I like this one anyways. And it's like, well, you're wrong, idiot. Like, this one clearly is better.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you? Right? So,
yeah, that's true. They'd be like flat earthers.
Yeah, exactly.
Which the Flat Earth Society, look it up. There's a website.
Okay, let's do an episode on that.
It's just for fun, but
there's
a website called the Flat Earth Society.
And people aren't serious, right?
No, but it's just funny.
If art is 100% subjective, then how do we get art competitions?
That is okay. Here's the deal with that. It's a group of people's opinions. So, anytime you've got a pool of judges, like a panel of judges, right?
Right.
That obviously they each have individual opinions, but as a whole, they're going to have certain things. There's going to be trends within that group.
Right.
Of judges.
There's mainly, when it comes to art, there's two types of competitions. You have a popularity one, like often with bands and stuff, and it's like, vote for who your favorite band is to get on this tour or whatever, right?
Isn't that's the same thing, they're judging it?
Well, that's what I'm saying. You've got the popularity of like a whole audience, and then you've got the judges where it's like, okay, we're limiting it some reason I can't say that word right. Or
But it's essentially the same thing.
Yeah, we're bringing it down to judges, though, who are quote-unquote experts in the area or have experience in the area, so we don't have just popularity. We're now bringing in skill and creativity into the part because these judges have done this stuff before. They've, like, if it's painting, they've painted or whatever, right?
Right. So, but see, that is coloring their opinion.
Right, exactly.
The fact that they are somehow more familiar with it in some way.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's a great point that you bring that up because those people, when you pick the judges,
mm-hmm.
you are also stating your opinion
mm-hmm.
that these people are somehow more qualified.
Right, it's a biased opinion based on, like, their subjective... Yeah. It's
right.
like, okay, like, if it's like a singing competition or something, it's like, okay, we've got 4 successful singers as our judges, and it's like, well, what are they successful in? Popularity? Of course it's popularity, right?
Or, I mean, yeah, it could be anything, or, like, some you know, you might want to get 4 very popular singers to be the judges.
The thing is, you would have to know of the judge, though, so they have to be at least somewhat popular, is the problem.
Well, usually. I'm just saying that,
right.
like, whenever you're picking a panel to judge art,
mm-hmm.
there is all different kinds of criteria
mm-hmm.
that you could potentially use to pick your quote-unquote experts.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, yeah, if it's like some singing TV show, they're going to get the most popular artists that they have.
Right.
That they can find.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, that's their opinion of what is going to make a good judge.
Right, where if it's on a smaller scale,
you might
like
want to get the most experience, like get the 4 oldest singers that you can find.
Yeah,
they've been
like
singing
the
for 20 years.
Or something, and yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, the most, or you could get like the most, you know, the most degreed.
Right.
Like this person's got like a PhD, he's got like 5 degrees, you know, or like 3 or 4 bachelor's degrees in singing or something like that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So even when you've got a panel of quote-unquote experts, you've still got to pick those experts based on some kind of criteria also,
mm-hmm.
which is going to skew, just by the very nature of you picking judges, that's going to create trends within your judging pool.
Right. So the bottom line here is, are art competitions completely redundant?
They are. It's essentially the same thing as a popularity thing.
Yep.
Because it's just popular. You're just selecting a minority.
Right.
And saying, what do you like?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas popularity is just saying the majority, hey, what do you guys like?
Right.
It's essentially the same thing.
Right. And so when it comes to competitions, like, the competitions are redundant, and whoever gets first place or second place or whatever, none of that matters. There's no, like, oh, this band got first place, or this piece got first place, so this one's better. It's like, that's what we try to do. We try to host competitions so we can have an objective ground and be like, all right, this piece has won this one, this one, this one, and this one. That's like what, you know, like people, like when you announce famous singers or something, it's like, oh, 10-time...
Grammy award winning.
Yeah, exactly.
Singer, yeah.
You try to objectively say how good they are, but the competition itself is just biased originally, so it's like, there's no way to determine. But, I mean, while they're redundant, I think it's kind of a nice idea. Like, we are trying to give ourselves an objective ground when we don't have one.
Right, yeah, or, you know, one of the things that I think art competitions, maybe one of their, maybe not a top priority, but one of their priorities is to kind of disseminate their ideas of what quality is.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So, like, if you look at something like the Oscars, they have a very specific type of movie that they like to award.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's like 6,000 people that vote
mm-hmm.
in the for the Oscars. They have a very specific, you know, most of their movies are based on a true story, have some kind of political edge to them. So, you know, those two things are usually a huge factor.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the kind of type of movie that they like. And so one of the that's what their idea of quality is.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that they're maybe not intentionally doing, but they're in maybe it's unintentional, but they're disseminating their idea of what quality is.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Right.
Like they're kind of saying, "Hey, this is what we think is quality. Maybe you should too."
Or maybe you should check it out at least and like, right?
Yeah, because we think this is quality.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
They want to make their opinion correct. Quote unquote.
They would like to have their standards more widely accepted. Yeah.
Right. So, like, I mean, I assume the end goal is still to make it like an objective standard, right? Because like if they want to spread it, the whole dream would be to spread it everywhere, and then you would have an objective point.
Yeah, I mean maybe not.
Actually, you wouldn't, because even if everybody likes something, it's still not objectively good. But
right. Well, we know that.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah, but I'm sure some of these award shows,
Mm-hmm.
Really would like more people to believe that this is what quality looks like.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
They're trying to make a grounds for it.
Right.
This is kind of going back to the idea of if nobody likes something, but what about art that is widely considered bad? For example, in music, there's music out there that could literally just be noise, no timing structure, every type of chord possible, dissonance and all kinds of stuff, but not necessarily dissonance. There could be dissonance and real chords, but there's no repetition, no patterns, like literally nothing. And people would probably call this bad music. Question now, really, is at that point, is it even music, right? Is it even art? If someone creates music that's like no structure, just sounds, not even necessarily the 12 tones, just
maybe not even instruments.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh. I guess it would depend on the intention of the creator.
Okay.
Like, are they... If you're making it to be listened to...
Mm-hmm. Then it is music and it is art?
I think so, yeah. Because that's sort of the definition that we're going by.
Okay.
If whether that's the purpose for it, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. There's,
So I guess intention would be... Like, intention is kind of what defines it. Or at least what can help you define whether it's art or not, you know what I'm saying?
There have been people, I forget the names of them, but I learned this in music theory class. There have been musicians who, have tested, what is music? And then they go and record something that just, sounds, awful with no structure, just, random noises, and then just, a trumpet, just, randomly and all kinds of stuff, right?
Uh-huh.
And so people have tried to prove that point by creating that type of music, and because their intention is for people to listen to it then, or is their intention, I guess their intention could be for people to listen to it and say, oh, this isn't music, or their intention is to prove whether it is music or not, right? So
that's interesting.
Yeah, at that point, I guess it is still music. Sort of, because that's getting into music theory of music has to have structure or whatever. We see this in paintings. We've all been to a museum or seen online those paintings that are just splashes of ink everywhere, and it's just or paint, I guess. Ink, guys.
Toner cartridges.
Living in the 21st century for sure. Yeah. There's just toner
break
cartridges.
Open a toner cartridge and just throw
No. There's what's that one that's all over the internet that's mostly red, but it's just splashed paint just everywhere, and it's all hectic, and it's and we go and look at it, and it's what am I looking at? Why is this here? A toddler could do this, right?
Yeah.
But
the music you were talking about.
Yeah.
Sort of.
A toddler could do it. Well, I'm trying to exactly the same.
It's
I'm making
equivalent of that.
the painting example because we've all seen paintings like that where it's
they're so abstract.
Yeah, a toddler could make this, and I don't get why it's good and why it's selling for $2.5 million or whatever.
Yeah.
But it is still art, even though there was, some people might say there was skill there, but the rest of us would probably be I don't know, a toddler could have done that, right?
Well, like you said, it's monetarily it's worth what someone's willing to pay for, right?
Yeah, and the question is whether it's art or not. And according to the definition that we gave earlier, it's quite literally art.
That super broad definition.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that definition really nails it.
Yeah, it's best. That's probably the best.
What about morals in art?
Huh, that's a good question. This is really medium specific, I would think.
What do you mean?
Like, depending on the medium that you're talking about, like music and stuff.
Well, music and movies and stuff. I know, and you know, as Christians, there are people out there who will say they will listen to certain music or see a certain movie or something, and if there was maybe vulgar lyrics or something, they'll say it's bad because of the moral. I don't know the word I'm looking for there.
Implications?
That's the word I'm looking for. Moral implications of it. And so they'll say it's bad, but they could have like enjoyed it or something, right?
Yeah. This is a really tough question because on the one hand, well, I know a lot of the times people sort of judge sort of the moral quality, if you want to call it that, I guess, of like a movie or music based on the perceived message that they're getting from it. Like, yeah, maybe something bad happens in the movie, like something morally wrong, like murder or something. But then they look at like, well, is it being glorified? Is it being accepted? Are we supposed to be cheering for the murderer? Or are we supposed to be cheering for the, the cop that's hunting him down? You know what I'm saying?
Like in Breaking Bad or something, right?
Right, yeah, the perfect example. Yeah, Breaking Bad. You got a criminal, and they are clearly like they want you to sympathize with him.
Oh, and we do. If you watch Breaking Bad, you want Walt to win.
Yeah, you totally want him to like evade the police, evade punishment of any kind. So is that morally wrong if that is its intention?
Well, I think it's I think finding the morals in it is kind of subjective, and it's not really that important
because it's not always explicitly stated.
Right. I think. Go ahead.
Well, even in a show like that, at the end of the day, he doesn't get away with it. Spoiler alert.
You probably should have really said spoiler alert beforehand.
Well, I think you probably can guess at that.
Dude, I did not want to spoil Breaking Bad.
Okay, we didn't really spoil it.
Okay, he doesn't get away with it. Anyways, continue.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, the end, so you have to infer what the creators were implying by the fact that he doesn't get away with.
Right.
That there was consequences to all of his actions.
Right. But
so are they saying that, wow, that's bad, you shouldn't do those things. But you shouldn't sell drugs.
It's good that we did the morals episode before this because as we've already discussed, there is no objective morality. It's just like a Christian or someone would not want to might not want to necessarily watch Breaking Bad because of that. And I think it's less about what the morals are because morals are subjective, but the idea that most people probably most people except for like religious people or people who like are really cautious about this stuff, I guess, keep the moral part and the creative part separate. They will say, like, I can listen to some death metal that's like Hail Satan or whatever, and I can be like, okay, yeah, the lyrics are bad and probably cheesy, but I like the music and I think the music's good, right? Like, people keep them separate usually. But some people combine them and they will say, look, I'm not listening to this because of the message. And is that, like, okay? Is that reasonable? Because
I think so. I mean, I think they're the same. I mean, it is sort of a complete package.
Right.
I mean, just because you can distinguish the different... I mean, you're separating the quality from... the perceived quality from the perceived morality. but they are both the same. They're both part of the same entity. You know what I mean?
Right. I think one of the things is going to become more important to you, though, the morality or the creativity, and that's where you decide what you should and shouldn't listen to, or can and or do enjoy and don't enjoy. Because as I said, like someone could be like really into like rock and roll or something, but out of some moral some convictions or something, they're like, oh, I need to only listen to this Christian contemporary music, which is all like poppy and upbeat and stuff, and the moral side of it is overwhelming the creative side of it. Where someone like me, the creative side of it's overwhelming the moral side of it. Does that make sense?
Yes, I understand what you're saying.
And so, are they both just reasonable? Like, is choosing the moral side over the creative side reasonable when art is all about the creativity? Like, art isn't about, it's not usually about the message you're sending, right?
That's a tough question because I feel like most artists either, it might be really obscure, but they are trying to say something.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, there's a message in there somewhere.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, it might be really obscure, like a really abstract painting or something.
What if the message is just like a neutral thing, like a neutral thought, like this whole movie is about this guy trying to tell us how much he likes pie or something, right?
Yeah, that's a low moral quality.
Okay.
Or maybe it's in the middle.
It's not.
Maybe
it's in the middle. Yeah.
I don't know.
It's like amoral, not immoral, because it's like telling us I like pie is a neutral thought.
Yeah, is that morally good, morally bad, or not really moral at all?
Right.
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. Seems like it's in the middle somewhere, like just like neutral.
So the question, like we were bringing up earlier, with we have skill, popularity. I can't even remember the other one. Skill, popularity, originality,
technicality.
Yeah, all those technicality and skill are like the same thing. All those subjective things that people use to judge art.
Yeah.
Now the question is, should morals go in and add to the same group as those others? Should it also be a part when considered grading art?
Is our morals the most important thing in the universe?
Well, that's subjective.
Yeah, it depends on your answer to that question, though. Like, if you feel like doing what's right is the absolute most important thing, and since you can't know it, then like finding out what's right, then yeah, it should be like the number one priority.
And so therefore it can be added and it can be very important.
Yeah.
But at that point, if like let's say you're a Christian or something, at that point music could be objectively graded as opposed to subjectively because you have an objective ground.
Yeah, but it could still get difficult, like you were talking about the pie.
Right. That's a question of, can we have like neutral thoughts? Is the I like pie positive or negative or neutral? If neutral
exists. You have an entire song about all the pies you like.
Yeah.
Like, I wrote this song about bacon.
Oh yeah, you did.
Have I told you that?
I think I heard a lot about it, and I probably heard a little bit of it.
I still want to record that one day, but anyway, yeah. So is that? Ah, man, yeah.
It depends on your intentions, right?
Oh, yeah, well...
I mean, it does. Like,
yeah.
Are you trying to make people fat? Well, then it's negative.
That's,
are you trying
that's bad.
to
it's morally bad.
Are you trying to get people to try bacon? Then that could be bad if someone thinks that eating bacon or eating pork is wrong, right?
Right.
So it's kind of a...
Oh, yeah, that's a sticky situation.
That's a topic for another day, though, I think. The point is, if you have objective morals, then you can grade art in that way, in an objective way. but the creative side of it still cannot be judged objectively, right? Just the message can be judged objectively.
The creative quality can't be judged subjectively.
Alright, are you ready for this? This is a big one.
Okay, so I'm so ready.
Should separate pieces of art be compared to each other, i.e. the book and the movie debate?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, why?
Well, it's hard enough judging art within the same medium.
Yeah.
Like, that's already, like, I feel like any movie, no matter how similar they are, even if it's like a remake, it's still sort of apples and oranges, even within the same medium.
Right.
And then if you talk about comparing like a book and a movie, then I feel like that's like you're talking about like a rock and a bacteria, like
right.
That's how different those things are.
The two mediums are so drastically different. It's like very difficult to determine which one's better, right?
Yeah, I think it. Yeah.
A person could spend 2 weeks reading a book. We talked about this. A person could spend 2 weeks reading a book, right? And during that time, they've spent 2 weeks immersed in that universe, enjoying everything that's going on.
Probably longer than that.
Well, some people who are really avid readers, like read sometimes like a book a week. Sometimes even like a book a day. The point is they spend a large amount of time, much longer than you would in a movie, where it's like a movie has like kind of an objective amount of time. Like this movie's runtime is 2 hours and 16 minutes. It's like, okay, for 2 hours and 16 minutes you're going to be immersed in that universe until you find another way to immerse yourself.
Actually, yeah, a book could take as long as you wanted it to.
Exactly. So you can be immersed in that universe for a much longer time.
You can actually ingest a book at different speeds. Like, you can read faster or slower.
Right.
You can choose to.
Right.
But you cannot consume a movie any faster or slower.
You can, it's a little different, like, you could,
like, you can pause it, you can watch half today, half tomorrow.
Right.
But it's still taking you the same amount of time.
Right.
Like, if it's a 90-minute movie, it's going to take 90 minutes to consume that movie.
Right.
If it's a 200-page book, you could...
It's kind of subjective.
You can read that really slow, or you can read it...
Yeah, I'm a slow reader. Like, when I read things, like, I enjoy what I'm reading. I, like, visualize every single detail in my mind and stuff, Some people don't do that. That really changes how you feel about it because, like, the amount of time that you've experienced with something, you're going to be much more attached and probably appreciate something more if you spent more time with it, right?
Right. That's why it's so hard.
And when reading a book, you create your own perspective, your own visuals, your own interpretations of what you're reading, where with a movie, what you're watching is someone else's visuals, someone else's interpretations of what happened in the book.
Right. Or like a play and a book or something. Like in school, we had to read Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And they're straight up plays that like are not meant to be read.
That's true, yeah.
Like, plays are just not meant to be read.
That's true. Like,
Shakespeare was never meant to be published.
Right.
They're written out as plays, and
so you had a different experience, and if you were to have watched it, like you probably didn't enjoy reading Shakespeare, right? I don't think anyone enjoys it. Like it's really difficult.
Like if you were to buy like Hamlet or something, like it's the straight up play. There's stage directions, and all kinds of stuff in there.
Yeah.
And it's like that's not the way it was meant to be consumed.
Yeah, we had to do that kind of stuff in like theater and stuff. Yeah. You have to just like sit down and read a play, and it's just like, wow, cool, I guess.
Well, it's like, well, this is a big deal, guys. This play.
And actually, a play is a perfect example because even though there's stage directions and stuff written in, it's still going to be whoever's reading it, and then like someone reads the script and then puts on their own interpretation of it. It's like, okay, well, they pick all the like the furniture or whatever, and if like the play doesn't describe it, all that stuff, and so it's their mental image, it's their representation of what they had in mind.
And also Shakespeare's stage directions were like extremely vague a lot of times.
Right.
So like you were like, it's up to the actor or the director or whoever to infer like what this stage direction is supposed to be portraying here. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good example with the plays. I like.
Which can change your entire experience if you're reading it or if you're watching someone's interpretation of the actual play.
And the book version, because it's whenever you're reading something, you always have your own mental image of it. That's always going to be supreme because you visualize what you want to see. Like, it's always going to be your perspective and what you want. So it's always going to be way above what anyone else could produce, right?
Yeah. Well, potentially, yeah, most of the time. But a lot of the times, people's mental image isn't even as clear as they think it is.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's extremely vague. You know, because you have all these, like, you know, description words. What are they called? Adverbs?
Adjectives? Or adverbs. Either one works.
Right. So you've got all those, and they can create
An adjective is like a blue, right?
One of them describes a
verb.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Adverbs describe the verbs.
Like panting
fast.
exhaustingly, or the wall is blue is an adjective. Panting exhaustingly is an adverb.
So you've got all these adjectives and adverbs that you're reading about, and they can create sort of a foggy image, but you may not realize how ill-formed it actually is in your mind.
That's true, because like when you're even when you're thinking about something, like if I were to think about this room right now, or if I were to be in another place and I was thinking of this room, it's like I can remember and be like, oh yeah, there's a pop filter hanging up right there. But it's like I'm not going to remember like, oh, there's this thing of baby powder there and a Hulk cup right there and stuff. All these other details, like I don't remember because your brain can only focus on like so many things at one time. Where in a movie, you have to like show everything.
Right.
Yeah, so that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, in a movie, they're forced to pick. You know, every color and everything. You know, whereas in your mind, when you're reading something, it's in like every character and place that you're at is in sort of this fluid state.
Right, and sometimes it changes. Like I remember, like sometimes when I read a book, like I have this mental image, and then they'll say something later, and I was like, wait a second, I have to like reimagine this room because that's not how that works. And it's like whatever, I'm just not even gonna reimagine this room because I got so hooked through like 75% of the book how I imagined it already.
Oh, this character is blonde. What?
Yeah.
That's not how. That's
I thought she was a redhead. Yeah. I want to sort of take back one of the things I said, which is kind of lame, but I said like when you have a mental image or whatever, it's going to be your perspective, which is going to be supreme. And you said not always. I think that's true in the sense that like sometimes someone can create something you like better. Like if you were to try to write a song or something, you have something like really good and you're like, yes, this is really good, I love it. And someone else can add to it and make it better, right? But generally, like if it was someone else's song and you added to it, then it's like it's a little different. Yeah.
Or I was more thinking of like if you're reading a book and they describe maybe a person or like a place. You know, and then you actually see like maybe like the movie version, and they've actually built this place, and you think, wow, that's cooler than I imagined it in my mind.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. If a movie were to be created that was an exact copy of a book, it could be like 7 hours or whatever it is it needs to take to be everything in the book gets in there. People would still probably say the book was better because of everything we've said so far, right?
Yes.
Yeah, even if the movie was exactly as the book depicted, people will still say, oh, the book was better. Which is just kind of weird because, like, in some scenarios, there are scenarios where people have said the movie was better, but it's very, very rare, right?
It's definitely less common than people thinking that the book is better, yeah.
I mean, I can only think of like a couple movies that people have said the movie was better, but...
The Hobbit?
No. No. Fight Club's the one I'm thinking of. A lot of people actually think the movie was better. It's all obviously subjective though.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you think the movie was better?
I haven't actually read the book all the way through.
Oh.
I picked it up in the library once and flipped through and read some things and I was like, wow, none of this was in the movie, and I was like, really
There's a
pissed.
lot, dude.
Yeah. In the end, let's not talk about it. We've talked about this off camera before. Should people judge others depending on what type of art they like?
No.
Nope. Sort of.
Why?
Okay.
Well. Ooh, that's a good question because I think well, not solely, but yeah, I think it's okay for it to be a factor.
Right. People.
Because that says a lot about a person.
Exactly. You shouldn't, when we're saying judge, we're not meaning putting yourself above someone else. Don't do that, because obviously art is subjective and there's no objective, you're not objectively better than them. If you're judging someone like that, you're wrong. But judging
just
them
assessing somebody.
Yeah, I think we've all been on Facebook stalking or something and be like, oh, let's see what this person likes, and you see a bunch of bands that you are just hate. It's okay, I probably don't really like this person, or probably won't be good friends with them, right?
Even though it's not necessarily true.
Right. It's a good reference point, though.
It gives you something
right,
to think about, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Me and you, though, we like very different music and stuff.
That's true.
But I would say we're probably friends. Are we friends?
I don't. We'll have to do an episode on friendship to find out.
But we he loves movies. I can't stand him. I can't stand sitting there for 2.5 hours doing nothing.
He likes metal, dude. He likes a lot of metal.
He likes electronic music.
That's true.
So we're very different. We have very different opinions on things. In fact, the only thing we probably have in common is this podcast.
We have a lot of similar opinions. We have pretty dissimilar tastes in things. You don't like meat.
Right.
I love it.
That's true. But we also have we don't need to talk about this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, it's talking about the point that you made.
Yeah.
In that,
we've got one or two things in common, but I mean, if I were to just if I wasn't to know you and someone was like, hey, you should meet my buddy Josiah, it's okay, cool, whatever. I go home and I'm on Facebook and I'm let's check this guy out. It's look at his profile picture. Okay, that's a poorly photoshopped profile picture. Okay, look at this loser. I go through his likes and it says Daft Punk and stuff, and I'm okay, I probably don't like this guy.
Yeah.
Right? And he's but it's a good reference point, but it's not 100%.
Yeah, it shouldn't be your sole. Somebody's Facebook page shouldn't be your sole determination of whether or not.
Right. Well, the Facebook page
friends.
thing I'm just using as an example because it's a clear way where it's look, these are the things this person likes in a nice list.
Yeah, I get you. I get you.
You could do the same thing walking down the halls in high school or something, or college or whatever, and you see someone wearing a shirt of some Iggy Azalea or something, you're okay, I probably don't think that person's very...
I definitely hate Iggy Azalea, so I'm probably going to hate this person.
Exactly.
See, that's something that you shouldn't think.
Well,
you may love that person. You may end up loving that person.
But you can think, okay, I probably don't need to start a conversation with this person. If you were walking down the hall and saw someone wearing a Daft Punk shirt or something, you'd be hey, nice shirt, man, even if you don't know him, right?
Yeah, I would definitely say that.
Would you? Is that your personality?
Yeah.
Okay, well, there you go.
I tell people nice shirt all the time.
Okay. Cool.
If they've got nice shirts.
Cool. So it's a good reference point, but obviously it doesn't. So we can judge people based on their opinions, but not judge them in the sense that you're an idiot for liking Attack or whatever. It's no, you can be okay. I like you. There's gonna be one viewer who likes Attack, and they're gonna be I'm turning this off. And it's
oh man, dude, don't upset our fan.
Yeah, our fan. I'm sorry, I love you. You can like Attack if you want. I just don't like it, like them. Let's see, nailed all that. Okay, it's not a guaranteed way to determine, but it certainly helps. Just like in genres. We need to talk about genres. Okay?
Genres?
Genres. The reason
There's so many. Why?
The reason... No, shut up. We need to talk about them in general. The reason we have genre names for music, movies, and etc. is because we want to be able to find movies and music and stuff that is similar to what we've already enjoyed before. It's just like with the friend thing. It's like, oh, you're wearing a Daft Punk shirt, I might think you're cool or whatever. And it's like, oh, this is an action movie, I really liked Die Hard, so maybe I'll like this, right?
I did like Die Hard.
I like Die Hard too.
You've seen Die Hard?
I've seen all four. Oh wait, there's a fifth one now, isn't there?
There is.
I have not seen the fifth.
Don't even bother.
Okay, I saw 1 through 4 though. I've seen the third one like a billion times. The third one's awesome.
With Samuel?
Yeah, man, that's a good one.
That is a good one.
But some people are like, this happens in music all the time, where people are like, oh, I like everything, or they'll be like, oh, genres are stupid or whatever. And it's like, no, there's a reason we have genres.
Yeah.
Can I get on a soapbox here? There's a reason we have genres. It's to determine, like, to find things that you will like because you've liked something else that's in that same genre. Like, it just makes perfect sense. It's the same thing with friends. Like, oh, I like Daft Punk, so that guy has a Daft Punk shirt, I can probably be friends with that guy. Right? It's exactly the same.
Well, yeah, I don't think you should be making too many assumptions, but...
Oh, absolutely. They're not, neither way is guaranteed, but they help.
Right, yeah, I think genres are important for the purpose of organization.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it helps, it's beneficial for that reason. Like, in your mind, because a lot of times when you want to compare, you have to compare to, you know, similar things. So it sort of helps you organize all these things. Like, okay, this, you know, I'm not going to compare this action movie to this like documentary.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it sort of just helps you classify and keep everything organized.
Right. Because comparing is like our subjective way of rating. Like, we don't have an objective, but it's like, okay, I can compare Until the Light Takes Us to that B movie that Ellen Page did or something. Like, they're both documentaries, right? I couldn't think of another documentary off the top of my head.
Oh, Man on the Wire?
There you go. Transcendent Man, too, or something like that, right?
Transcendental Man.
What?
That's what it was called.
No, the movie's called Transcendent Man.
The one about Ray Kurzweil?
And I don't know the guy's name. Is it the one about like all the technology and stuff we'll have in the future and stuff?
Yeah,
it's
Ray
called
Kurzweil.
Transcendent Man.
Oh, I thought it was called Transcendental Man.
No, dude, you're the one that told me about it. It's called Transcendent Man.
Huh.
So yeah, genres are helpful. They're not a guaranteed way to determine something. I can't say, like, okay, I can say I like death metal, but there are bands that I listen to and I don't like, and it's like, well, that's good.
Yeah.
But for the majority of the time, I can say I like it. Or the
I like
opposite
action movies,
There you go.
but I don't like every action movie.
Or the opposite of.
But it helps me class. It's just it's beneficial.
Yeah, I don't like
it
pop
has some
music,
value.
but I like.
Do you like T Swift?
I've been listening to 1989 like almost nonstop. 1989 and Thank You Scientist have been in my car. Thank You Scientist is a band. Like, been in my car nonstop.
Oh
like,
yeah, that jazz fusion band you like, or whatever.
Did you actually listen to them?
I listened to some stuff. Yeah.
Oh wow, I'm impressed. So yeah, I like T Swift though, but I don't like other pop necessarily. So yeah, I think we're pretty much good on that then.
Yeah. I think so.
So yeah, art is 100% subjective.
All the way.
We can't judge it properly.
Any way that you can think of is just stupid. I really hate. Yeah, like.
You hate judging art?
The more reviews I do, the more I hate doing them.
Because it's really hard to determine?
Yeah, it's just like... I wish I could just say, like, yeah, I like this, I don't like that. Like, oh, Are we going to talk about rating? Are we going to talk about ratings?
We can. What do you want to talk
about? Is that in your
about?
list?
It's not. What do you want to talk about? Sorry.
Oh, I just had to talk. Well, this is sort of this is very movie specific, but I want to talk about it because.
Well, sort of.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty,
other things get ratings too.
It's pretty movie specific, but I'm gonna talk about movies for a second, okay?
He's a movie guy. Let him go to
yeah. Just let me go to town on this.
It's all you, dude.
For the longest time.
Yeah, like eat some bread. Whatever.
Yeah. Eat some bread. You got. I'm about to go on this, okay? For the longest time, the classical movie critics worked on a 4-star scale, okay? So every movie could only get 1. You could get technically you could get 0, but usually the lowest is 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So what that means is, you've got 4 degrees of ratings, and so that makes it really, really accurate. I know that sounds weird, but it's actually, you can be more accurate when comparing ratings because you've got less options. You see what I'm saying? So if you're trying to judge between a movie that's a 2 or a 3, there's no middle ground. So you basically have to say whether that's kind of like your cutoff point, whether it's good or bad, basically. So 3 is good, 2 is bad. Mm-hmm. 4 is really good, 1 is really bad. You see what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
So having less points of gradients, it kind of is a little bit accurate, and it makes it a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
The less you have. But most people, but more modern day critics, within the last 10 years, people have upgraded to a 5-point scale. That way they have a middle ground. So you have that 3,
mm-hmm.
okay? And basically the more current we get, and the farther we go, people want more and more and more options.
Mm-hmm.
They want smaller degrees.
Right.
Okay, so on a lot of websites, they use there's this website called Letterboxd, which is a popular place where anybody can go and make an account, and you can rate movies that you've watched just sort of for your own record. And they use a 5-star scale.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you can have 5. But even the people that use Letterboxd, when they write their reviews, they will have half stars. So that's essentially a 10-point scale.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
On my channel, I use a 10-point scale,
Mm-hmm.
but I also use half points.
So you have a 20-point scale.
So I have a 20-point scale.
Right.
Now, a very popular website, Rotten Tomatoes, which gets a percentage, they just count up the percentage of positive reviews for a movie,
Mm-hmm.
and they use, so they're giving it a percentage out of 100.
So they have a 100.
So they have a 100-point scale,
Right.
and because they use, it's not really a 100-point scale because they're not actually rating the movie,
Right.
but because they're giving it that percentage, that in people's minds they think 84%, that's an 8.4.
Right. And that's not how that works.
Well, no, it's not. It doesn't directly correlate, but
Right.
in people's minds, they start thinking about movies on that 100-point scale.
Right. And
You see what I'm saying?
the reason people do that though is because okay, they're like, okay, if you have a small scale like 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, so this movie that I didn't like, what's a movie I don't like?
The last movie you saw, probably.
And the last movie I saw was The Third Hobbit.
Okay, the movie before that.
Okay, let's. Jeez. Let's say I don't like Valentine's Day or something. You know, some love romantic movie or something. Or
Have you seen that movie?
Probably on TV. I think I have.
That's a really random movie to pick.
I think I saw it little bits and pieces of it on TV like 2 nights ago or something.
Let's say Transformers 4.
I never saw Transformers 4. Anyways, let's say okay. So a person takes. They're like, okay, I didn't like this movie, but I thought it wasn't terrible, so I gave it a 2 out of the 4, right? And it's like, okay, I didn't like this movie, but I thought it wasn't terrible, so I'm also going to give it 2. But then they compare it to the first movie, and they're like, well, I don't want to compare it to that movie because it was definitely better than that movie. And that's why they want to increase the scale all the time, because they're like, okay, this one deserves a little bit more credit than that, but I don't think it's a 3 because I gave this other movie that's really good at 3.
Exactly.
And so they have to keep creating the scale larger and larger because like the opinions are so like subjective where you're saying the smaller scale is better because it's more objective. The smaller scale we have is like, look, these movies are 2s, so they're not that great. These movies are 3s, so they're decent, right?
Right.
And so it's kind of this weird thing of like, well, if you want a more objective review, then you should probably go to a place that has a 4-point scale. If you want if you want to be more subjective about it, then you should go to a place like Rotten Tomatoes or something.
Right. And see, yeah, that's the thing. So like, you're gonna be more accurate.
Are you galloping your hair?
Yeah. You're going to be more accurate in the sense that, like, a movie that's a 2... see, this is hard to describe. Like, a movie that's a 2...
Mm-hmm.
That's probably not going to change.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, even if you watch it again and you're like, oh, okay, that wasn't as bad as I remember, it's probably not going to jump up to a 3 for you. Or anything like that. You know what I'm saying?
Right, because the jump is so large that it would take like something really...
Right.
Right.
But if you've got a 100-point scale, well, an 8.1 might turn into an 8.9.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Well, then at that point, you're closer to a 9 than you are to an 8.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a question for you. Whenever you're actually... If you want to give a movie a definitive rating...
Mm-hmm.
Should you compare it? Like, let's just say we're using a 10-point scale. Only 10 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to give the movie a 7. Should you compare that movie to every other 7 that you've rated?
I mean, most people would, though, right?
I think most people go just based off their gut. Like, I try to think about that.
But I don't think, okay, you try to think about it because you have to give it a rating. So you're like, okay, I want to give this a 7, but you have to do that thing that I was talking about earlier where you like, well, is this as good as that other 7 that I gave like 2 weeks ago?
Exactly. Well, actually, I just have like one movie for everything.
Oh, you had like a basis before starting? Because that would be an interesting way to do it. Because if you have your own personal scale, it's like, okay, let's say
like Dark Knight is a 9.5.
Yeah.
Inception is a 9.
Fight Club's a 10. We got like Valentine's Day.
Fight Club
like
is a 9.
1. Yeah.
For me.
Fight Club's 9.
I don't give a movie a 10.
Oh, okay.
I've never given
Dark Knight over Fight Club?
Yep.
Interesting.
It redefined a genre.
Okay.
Fight Club did not. Even though it's great. I mean, it's a 9. It's a 9
I don't know what was redefining about it, but I'm not taking this personally because I know opinions are all subjective. And he's not saying, "Oh, I'm more sophisticated than you because I think Fight Club was only a 9." Where to me, Fight Club's probably my favorite movie, and so therefore I just give it whatever the highest rating is.
Right. So see, a lot of people do that.
Yeah. Exactly. Because
Well,
I don't hold a review show.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, a lot of people, like, even with when they're moving from movie to movie,
Mm-hmm.
they'll judge it by different standards.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like I enjoyed this movie a lot. I'm gonna give this movie pretty good quality, but I didn't enjoy it as much. Less.
Mm-hmm.
Or this movie, this is based on the real life story of Michael Jackson. I'm really familiar with his life. They nailed it.
Right, that's why you
I didn't enjoy it that much because it wasn't a fun movie, but wow, they really nailed Michael Jackson's life. 10.
Right, that's why with art you usually have different scales for different things. It's like, okay, the skill needed behind this was a 7. My enjoyment was a 9.5. The director did a terrible job though, and it was like the director's part was a 2 or something.
Yeah.
And so then you combine all that and you get like an average rating, right? You have to have all these differences. It's like, okay, the average is somewhere around there, but they
most
probably
people don't-
shouldn't actually average it because averaging it kind of skews the numbers heavily.
Yeah, most people aren't thinking about it.
Right.
even if you're rating a movie, they're not thinking about it that intensely. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like a lot of people will just be like, oh, this movie.
They're just thinking about how they enjoyed it. It's the same with like pop music. You listen to it and you're like, oh, I enjoyed this song more than this one.
Yeah.
Right?
Even though it's exactly the same as, or like this movie. Yeah, I've seen this plot 100 times, but the acting was really great, so it's going to bump it up for me.
It doesn't even have to be exactly the same.
Or,
No,
just
things
whatever.
on different scales. Like, there could be a Taylor Swift song that I like more than, like a Rings of Saturn song. Rings of Saturn is a band that's known for, like, the most ridiculous technical play around there. So it's like, okay, well, I like Taylor Swift more, so it's like, well, I'm gonna give Style by Taylor Swift a higher rating than I'm gonna give, whatever.
Right.
And
So you got so ratings really, man. See, and then I think the best thing is if you didn't have any ratings, you just like read or listened to someone's review. Because you're essentially having to condense.
That makes
You're condensing all your feelings down into a number.
Right, most
And
people
that's not
don't want
capturing-
to though.
Exactly, they just want that.
They need a number.
They
so
want that summation of your feelings.
Or they want like 10 numbers for each little point. It's still easier than reading a whole article on it. Right?
Right.
If like at the top of the page it says overall technicalities is 7,
Yeah, directing, acting, story, script,
exactly.
whatever. Yeah.
All that. They want the numbers because it's easier and they don't want to spend the time. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think the best way would just be to, just read or listen to what was good and what was bad.
What's funny
and then
though,
decide for yourself, well, okay, well, see, that's the other thing. Like, what is the purpose of reviewing?
yeah, it's funny
Are you
because
reviewing, like, people are reading these reviews for different reasons.
right.
Or watching a review on YouTube or something.
Some people will like. Some people want.
Some people just want to know. They want to get somebody else's opinion. Some people are trying to decide whether or not it's worth their time watching it.
Exactly. The people who decide whether it's worth their time watching it is like hilarious though, because it's like, okay, this person gave these opinions. Well, it's like, okay, so the person that you're judging their opinions on, are you listening to them because you know they have similar opinions as you do because they have similar tastes? Or what if it just got really good reviews across the board and it's like, well, at that point it's like a popular review, but you might just go in and hate the movie because everything's like subjective to your own personal thing.
Right.
So it's like,
Or
why do you even bother?
You might be watching a review and they're like, oh, I really didn't like this, this, and this. And you're like, oh, well, I don't really mind those things.
Or you could say, oh, I really like those things. Actually, like,
Oh,
what
yeah,
was it?
after, like, you're talking about after you've seen the movie.
Boondock Saints, like, we had this, like, I talked about how, like, oh, yeah, I liked Boondock Saints, but I didn't like all the weird, like, cheesy scenes where William Dafoe came in, and he, like, the screen paused, and he was like, there was a bullet shot here, and this, and you said, I remember you saying, you really liked that part.
Yeah, I thought it was one of the only unique things about the movie.
Right. And so it's so weird, like, the subjectiveness of it, where
Yeah,
why do you even listen to other people?
Yeah, that was pretty much a poor man's Tarantino movie,
Okay.
essentially.
He didn't like Boondock Saints, I liked
No,
it.
I didn't dislike it.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was fine. I'm just saying it's like a poor man's Tarantino.
I was gonna ask you the rating, but we shouldn't use ratings, right?
I don't remember it. It's probably like a 5.5 or 6.
What's your scale? What's 5 and what do you have as like 5.5 or 6 on your scale?
Oh, as like my reference point?
Yeah.
I think 5 is that movie Dracula Untold.
That's a new one.
Yeah.
You're using a new scale.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
What do you mean?
Like, I thought you had a scale before.
Well, yeah, it's usually just the top. The only time I really think about that is if it's approaching the top, like 7 or above.
Right, okay. Gotcha.
You see what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
Like, I don't really care if it's like 7 or if it's like below a 7. I don't really think about it in comparison to
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Is that all?
Because it worries me. It worries me because I want the high. If I think a movie is really great, I want to be sure it's really great before I rate it.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Because at
Whereas-
that point, you're risking people going to see the movie because you
Right. If it's a middle of the road movie, I'm less concerned about how
taking a
middle of the road it
stance
was.
is just kind of lame anyway. It's like, the movie was just okay. It's like,
That's why you should actually listen to somebody's thoughts on it.
yeah.
Like,
instead
what did
of-
they like?
Yeah.
What was good about the movie? What was bad about the movie?
Yeah,
You know?
if they it's like, oh, I like the technical skill of it, but I didn't like this. It's like, oh, well, the technical skill part's important to me as a viewer,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
it's not necessarily important to other people.
Or like, hey, the story was really unique, but the acting wasn't that great. It's like, oh, okay, well, the story looks interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I want out of a movie like this, you know? I'm
Right.
not really going in for the acting, so I'll go see the movie.
Like Primer or something. Like the acting in Primer wasn't that great, but the
Yeah.
story was very interesting. So
Perfect example.
yeah. Are you done on your soapbox?
I think so, yeah. It's
Keep
a really
stepping down.
convoluted, but yeah, I think ratings are kind of stupid, but I still give them because people want them.
You heard it here first, guys. His whole channel is just a fraud.
No, I think you should listen to people's thoughts on the movie.
Okay. I guess we're done here then.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, did you put your Twitch link in the,
I did.
Okay.
Art is 100% subjective. If someone likes something that you don't be a jerk about it.
Yeah.
Because there's no reason to, because it's 100% subjective. There's no way to judge art, and
Just talk about it.
yeah, just
fun.
talk about it. Yeah, see? We were talking about movies and stuff that we've seen on here. You guys might not have seen them, but it's fun to talk about them. So,
Mhm.
there you go. I think we're
Yeah,
good.
why do you think it's good? Why do you think it's bad? Just good conversation.
Yep.
I think that's the greatest utility of art, conversation.
Maybe. Well.
For me.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I prefer listening to an album than talking to my friends about it.
Huh. Well, I think, yeah. Well, yeah, I guess you're right. Not across the board,
Mhm.
but I think, like, a good indication for me of a good movie is one that you can have, like, a good discussion about.
Okay, yeah, that could be for movies specifically. Yeah,
Yeah.
that could make sense because it's different with music. Because with music, like you can be like, oh yeah, I really like that one bass fill on "Uprising" by Muse or whatever, and it's like cool. But then it's like, well, the rest of the song is just repeating things, so there's nothing we can really talk about. It's like, yeah, song's catchy, I like it.
Yeah, it's a little bit, music's a little bit different.
Yeah.
By the way, you should see Gone Girl.
I plan on it. That's a movie I really want to see.
Yeah, David Fincher, your main man.
I will download it as soon as it's out on DVD.
Legally, right?
Legally.
Okay, yeah, because piracy, that's
Piracy is a crime.
it's bad.
Yeah.
It's not. There's our victims.
Mm-hmm. Pirate Bay's back up. Did you hear?
Is it really?
Yeah.
Ah, I've still been going to that Caribbean one or whatever, Costa Rican one.
Well, don't worry about it. It's all good.
Okay,
By the
well,
way,
check
we're
out
sponsored by the Pirate Bay.
Oh yeah, there's a little poster over there. Also, thank you Domino's for
Yeah, thank you, Domino's.
your breadsticks.
Stuffed cheesy bread is what it's officially
Stuffed
called.
cheesy bread is really great. Check out our Facebook page, link in the description of that.
Facebook.com/TCOpodcast.
Check out his Twitch page, Jacob Clodfelter at
No.
twitch.com.
Twitch.tv/Nurion Lindale, NEURIONLINDALE.
Or if you want to see some sick bass covers, check out his YouTube channel, NurianLindale.com.
Oh yeah.
YouTube.
Did you watch that bass cover?
I did, I liked it.
The one where I was dancing around?
Yeah, I actually physically liked it.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah.
Yeah, I have sort of a YouTube channel, but not really. Actually, if you want to find me basically anywhere on the internet, you can go by that name. You want to add me on Steam, play some games with me or something, it's Nurion Lindale, and yeah.
You can check out my YouTube channel if you want some more sweet reviews like you heard tonight.
373, save them backwards.
No, it's Josiah Sandu. Links in the description.
If you want to email us, tcopodcast@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm. Or you can leave questions.
Yeah, you can
Or-
just comment here, comment on the Facebook page, anywhere.
Anywhere you want to. If you have show ideas that you want us to talk about, that would be awesome.
That would be a good one.
That would be great, actually. That would be a big help.
Yeah, please, even if you don't have show ideas, just like leave comments. You can comment on Josiah's book that he's had hanging this whole time, or comment on us eating on the show, just comment and
Yeah, what do you want us
will,
to eat on the show?
Yeah, we will take requests. If you want us to bring like a freaking giant ribeye steak or something, he'll eat it.
Oh, what if they want you to eat it?
Well, then I won't. But
Yeah.
next episode.
But you'll have to smell it though.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like eating it.
Next episode topic
It's probably gonna be about
evolution.
Really?
Yeah, that's next week.
We're doing it, huh?
We're doing it. We're doing evolution next week.
Okay, we're doing it.
Is
I am
that everything?
so ready to deny it. I'm just gonna deny it.
I'm gonna deny your face.
Somebody's gonna have to be on the other side of the debate. It's gotta be me.
That's true.
I gotta just be like, no.
See, this is like the secret, like behind the scenes thing, because anyone who watches it won't know that you're like playing devil's advocate.
Playing around?
Yeah. they have to watch this episode and find out that how you believe. But
You're gonna be like, yep, mosquitoes, evolution. I'm just gonna be like, nope.
and I'll be like, mosquitoes evolution. That's my jam.
Well, bugs, like you can see evolution in bugs, like really cool because they reproduce so fast.
Oh, okay.
So you can like pick up on the
We'll talk about that on the show
evolutionary
probably.
cycles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely tune in next week for that. Check out the links in the description if you want to get. There's all kinds of more.
Like this video, share it with your friends. Our last video got like 3 views. Come on, guys. Come on. We put a lot of work into this.
Not really.
I do. Dude, I'm the one that like studies every week and prepares like a whole list of stuff to talk about.
Well, it's kind of your show, so that's.
Well, you do all the technical aspects. So.
That's true. I gotta edit this.
And it's really it's like really your show too, let's be honest, because like I couldn't have these discussions with nearly anyone else. Like that's why I don't have.
That's true. I gotta maintain this set,
Mm-hmm.
equipment, background, all these lights.
You bring the comedy to the show too. I'm the not funny one. I'm the one that's like, Josiah, stop being an idiot. We gotta move forward.
Well, this was a pretty good show.
It's our longest one yet.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, everybody. We will see you next time. By the way, your face looks really good.
What?